Hey, you guys, welcome to Alex and Andy Live. We're coming to you live from Shanghai, China, where we are currently still under citywide lockdown. Today, we have some new updated information for you, including some quite big news. But first, Alex, how was your day today, number 18?
Not bad. Yeah, 18th day in a row for us here in Puxi, for the majority of us. Weather is getting a little bit cooler, so don't need to. It's pretty nice. Don't need to use any heating or air conditioning. Just keep the windows open. But yeah, other than that, not a whole lot going on, man. Same. The days are blending together. I actually have no idea what day of the week it is right now, so that's sort of where I'm at.
Well, we're on Monday. It's Monday, the 18th, Alex, and we're looking at.
I believe you. Go ahead.
We're looking at the weather now in Shanghai, currently 19 degrees Celsius, about 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Like Alex said, the weather is cooling down. We had highs of 35, 36 last week, but now it's looking pretty cool. And again, there was that lovely view of Lujiazui, which is Shanghai's famous financial district, coming up. There we go. Beautiful view there. So yeah, again, we are in day number 18 of a full citywide lockdown here in Shanghai, China. I'll quickly read the numbers. We had a slight fall in the numbers, which is good news. But again, I'm not holding my breath that it's a downward trend just yet. But for yesterday, we had 2,417 new symptomatic cases and 19,831 new asymptomatic cases today. So yeah, as I said, slightly down, but I don't know if it's significant, Alex.
Yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock into it at this point. Over the last 7, 8, 9 days, we've seen pretty much steady numbers, just between 20 and 25,000, more or less, over the last week and change. And today it appears to be the same thing. Not really sure why that is. Again, just want to reiterate that I am not any sort of medical expert, virologist, pandemics, none of that. We're just reporting the numbers. None of that. So we're just reporting the numbers here and sort of some trends we see. Now, the important thing to look at when you look at this graph on your screen right now is that it does appear that the numbers with the taller gray bars have dropped, but that is just asymptomatic cases. If you look down at the base of the graph on the bottom, the blue, the navy colored, dark blue down there is symptomatic cases. And if you stack those on top of each other, we would be right up around the 25,000 range pretty much every day. And so we're seeing just a steady stream of positive cases. Not sure why that is and why the numbers are sort of unchanging, but that's just where we are right now.
Right. One of the theories is that since the city's under complete lockdown, that some of the new cases may be coming from everyone bunching together every day to do PCR tests downstairs. So we do have some news to tell you about an update there, which could help that situation. But first, what we're going to do is chat with our colleague at Shanghai Daily. First, I'll just introduce the news. We heard that there were 3 deaths reported yesterday based on, in the COVID numbers. And so, as I said, we have Yang Jian here who's going to fill us in. Yang Jian, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi. Hi, Alex. Hi, Andy.
Hi. So you're the Shanghai Daily reporter who takes part in the daily press briefings every morning. Can you tell us a bit about these 3 cases?
Yeah. On today's press briefing, they announced that there are 3 elderly COVID-19 cases died on Sunday. And I remember which is the first time that death cases appeared in Shanghai since the coronavirus resurgence on March the 1st. And these cases died of severe underlying diseases, not the coronavirus directly, and none of them had been vaccinated. And they include an 89 and a 91-year-old female and a 91-year-old male patient with underlying diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension. And their conditions got worsened after being sent to the designated hospitals. And despite the rescue efforts of medical experts from various departments, not only for the coronavirus, but mainly for their underlying diseases, they still died yesterday.
Well, we hate to hear that. It was good to know that that number was 0 up until now. So I hate to hear about that. But I do want to ask you. We learned that only about 62% of the local population here in the city, age 60 or above, are vaccinated. Is that true? And can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes. And I think the key lesson from the death cases reported today is that more seniors should take the COVID-19 vaccines. And the director of the city's health commission mentioned yesterday that despite Omicron mainly leads to cases with mild symptoms and asymptomatic cases, he said that the elderly is still vulnerable to Omicron without the protection of the vaccination. So that is also the reason why we should stick to the city's dynamic zero COVID strategy, which is mainly to protect the elderly and other vulnerable groups. And the Health Commission official mentioned that though the vaccine cannot completely block the transmission of the virus, it is highly effective to prevent serious symptoms and death for the seniors. And in Shanghai, you mentioned that the vaccination rate among the seniors is not high enough to create an immunity barrier. Only 60% of them have received 2 jabs, and the rate of the booster shot is even lower. It's 38%. So the officials suggested that local seniors should take the vaccines at nearby community health centers right after the lockdown of their community. Communities were lifted. Alex.
Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, we know that the vaccines are effective in terms of mitigating the symptoms, and we know that the elderly are the most vulnerable, and obviously those with other underlying conditions. So yeah, definitely, I agree with that totally. Yeah.
Yeah, some really great updates there, Yang Jian. Thank you so much, and we will catch up with you again in an upcoming episode. Have a good evening.
All right, talk to you soon. Thank you.
Wow, so 2 really important pieces of information there from today's press conference here in Shanghai. The first was that 3 people who were in hospital with COVID have passed away. That is the first 3 deaths we've seen, as Yang Jian just said, since March 1st when COVID started making a resurgence here in Shanghai. Now, all of those cases were elderly, actually quite old, upper 80s, early 90s. All of them had serious pre-existing conditions and none of them were vaccinated. And the second piece of important information he just shared with us was that only 62% of over 60s here in Shanghai are fully vaccinated. That's 2 jabs or a full course. And the number of those over 60 who have had a booster shot is even lower at just 38%. So he was really stressing there, Alex, that we need to push with getting the elderly here in Shanghai, the most vulnerable, vaccinated.
Yeah, definitely, totally agree with that. I mean, we know that the elderly and also those with other pre-existing conditions, particularly those who are both elderly and have pre-existing conditions, are the most vulnerable here. Obviously, we've seen a much lower mortality rate with Omicron than we did with the other variants of the virus that were around in the 2020 and 2021. But obviously, if you have underlying conditions or are of an advanced age, definitely need to get that vaccine. If any of our viewers fall into that category, we encourage you to get the vaccine as soon as possible. I know it may be difficult under lockdown right now. I'm not sure if they're providing that service to anybody during lockdown. It would be great if that was available. I'm not really sure, but in any case, as Yang Jian mentioned, as soon as the lockdown is lifted in anyone's community, if somebody is unvaccinated, particularly if you're in a vulnerable group, definitely try and go resolve that issue as soon as possible, because it'll help us keep this under control.
Yeah, I did notice that Yang Jian said elderly people should aim to get vaccinated in the nearest community clinic as soon as their area is out of lockdown. So I assume, I should have asked actually, that what that means is once they are in the green stage, I'll bring up that list we made the other day. Once they're in the precautionary stage, which means they'll be able to where's that image? There we go. Which means they'll be able to leave their compound and walk around their sub-district. Maybe that means they can then go to their community clinic and get a vaccination. We'll find out and bring that back to you. But it could be the case. Alex, what do you reckon?
Yeah, he definitely implied that, or if he didn't mention it directly, I think he did. Is that will be the case, and so for any senior citizens, we hope that they are vaccinated as soon as possible. I have heard from multiple officials in different statements that have been made that is one of the biggest concerns of the local government, is that they're concerned about the elderly population here. Obviously, Shanghai, as anyone who's lived here for any period of time knows, has quite a large population of people of an advanced age, and so with the vaccination rate hovering just above 60, that's not enough to achieve any sort of group or herd immunity amongst that population. So definitely would like to see those numbers go up as soon as is logistically possible.
Right, and as we saw in Hong Kong, another part of China that is administered differently to the mainland, there were also over there a high number of elderly people who were not vaccinated, and we saw, unfortunately, around 8,000 deaths as a result. So that is going to be something that's on the mind of the Shanghai government as we continue pushing for zero COVID. Now, the next story, actually, before I get into that, let's see if we've got any comments coming in. Veloci Cariola says, I keep missing this live. Yay. Well, you've made it this time. Welcome. Somebody else says, I missed my wife's Taobao live session. Not going to miss yours. Haha. Well, welcome. Stephen Riley says, hello, Alex and Andy. Here's hoping for a start of reducing numbers. Yeah, definitely looking for that. Numbers are down today, Stephen. Hopefully we keep going that way. Mark Hur says, good evening, Alex and Andy. East Wind Express says, good morning. So I guess they're in another part of the world. Welcome to the show. Thank you for watching. Joel Alberto says, the number still looks pretty bad. I had my third nucleic acid test 3 days in a row. Now, actually, that's a good segue into the next piece of news that we have here in Shanghai. Like I said before, someone mentioned, a lot of people have been mentioning that the climbing numbers, despite the city still being in lockdown, may be attributed to the fact that we are going downstairs all the time, crossing paths with people in the community to get PCR tests. Well, that is going to change from today to Thursday. Locked down areas will receive PCR tests every day. But a new update here, if there's been a positive case within the past 5 days in your area, you will no longer be asked to go downstairs with everybody else to do a PCR test. And instead that will take place going from door to door, which is great news. If there have been no positive cases in your area within 5 days, you will still need to go downstairs. Alex, what do you make of this news?
Well, obviously it stands to reason. I know that over the last 18 days, the only contact I've had with anyone who doesn't live inside my apartment has been going downstairs to do COVID tests. And, of course, we have elected, the members of my household have elected to take the stairs both down and up. Now we live on the 20th floor, so that's been quite the exercise, traipsing up 20 floors of stairs. But we decided to do that because people are lined up to get in the elevator. Now, people are doing a pretty good job, by and large, of keeping 2 meters distance from one another, from not riding in the elevator in large groups. It'll usually just be one household at a time. But at the same time, people are walking past each other and crossing paths. Buildings and streets were not designed to prevent human contact, right? And so some hallways and passageways are narrow. it does stand to reason that it is possible, despite the deep irony that it would be if this happened, is getting COVID while standing in line for a COVID test. So, yeah, it's good to see that that's sort of being curtailed, at least in areas that have recent positive cases, because I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone.
Right, and it's true what you're saying there. It is not easy. In my building, we have 6 floors, no elevator, so everyone goes up and down the stairs. Everyone's just passing each other, lining up together. So it's not ideal, and it would be the harshest of ironies to catch COVID-19 while lining up for a test. But yeah, I think also if we look closely at this change, maybe it is some kind of confirmation that the CDC have found out that was the case, that maybe there were people whose only contact was coming across their neighbors during the COVID testing who have tested positive. I'm not sure, but I think that would stand to reason. What do you reckon, Alex?
Yeah, again, like I just said before, today is day 18, and that is literally the only contact I've had with any other people. And so, I mean, I'm still testing negative. We didn't have a test today, but I haven't. For all I understand, I've been testing negative throughout. But if that were to change, unfortunately, I couldn't attribute it to anything other than that. So, that's just sort of
right. Yeah. Exactly. Now, I'm going to quickly just go deeper into this new situation here in Shanghai, if you're watching from Shanghai. So like I said, if you're in a locked down area, which is the red situation at the top there, which means you've had cases in your community within the last 7 days, you will be tested every day with a PCR test. You won't need to go downstairs if there was a case in the last 5 days. Now, if you're in the controlled area, which is the orange area, and you haven't had cases in your community in 7+ days, you will take the self-antigen test on the 18th, 19th, and 21st. That's today, tomorrow, and the 21st. And then you will also take a PCR test on April 20th downstairs. If you're in the green area, which is the precautionary area, which means you haven't had cases in the past 14 days, you will do 2 antigen tests within the week. That is really confusing, you guys. But if you want the detailed information, do head along to shine.cn, and we'll post all the information there. Alex, you're still actually, you should be in the orange area like me now.
Nope. New case yesterday. Back to the red.
Oh, no.
Yep. New case in the building next to my building, which is all the more reason why I don't want to go down the stairs right now. But yeah, there have been 2 cases over the last couple of days in the building that's directly next door to mine, and so we are knocked off the game board and back to square one. So I think our earliest expected date to get to the green zone is now, I think, the 1st or the 2nd of May. So yeah, it looks like I'll be a full month inside or longer. So that's unfortunate. But you sent a message to me, if I was reading it right, you got to the orange zone. Is that right?
Right, we did. We got to the orange zone, which means, and this is interesting, because obviously all the different communities in Shanghai are quite different. We live in quite a small community. We don't have any communal areas. Literally, you go downstairs and it's the street. So we're allowed technically to walk around our shelter in the common areas, the garden. We don't have a garden. We don't have common areas. So even though we're in the preliminary area, the orange area, not much has changed. So we're waiting for 24th of April, like you were heading for before. And hopefully we'll be allowed outside of the community. But I'll cross my fingers. I'll just quickly read some more comments. Li Chang asked us, is there any website tracking how many communities are in red, yellow, green each day to see if more are moved to green each day? Yes, there are. They are listed online. There are a number of websites you can go to. I don't have them on me now, but you could ask your Jiwei or your volunteers who will put you in touch, or you could just directly ask your Jiwei which area or which level your community is in. Stephen Riley says, I'd encourage anyone that can get vaccinated to do so, irrespective of their age. Very true, good advice there. And Kevin James Ng says, sounds like Hong Kong, older building with 10 levels, least that they only have stairs. Yeah, there's a lot of situations like that here in Shanghai. I think normally they won't go over 6 floors without an elevator, but yeah, 6 floors is still quite a bit. So yeah, I'll just quickly also check our WeChat group, the Shanghai Daily WeChat group. Grace asks, when do you usually start the live show? We're here every day from 7:30 p.m. Grace, thanks for coming along. A lot of messages. I think what we'll do now, Alex, is we'll check out a video from Xinhua News Agency, which takes us along to visit a residential community, a nucleic acid testing lab. I've always wanted to see how that's done, as well as a makeshift hospital, to find out how these different sectors are getting along with this whole lockdown, basically. So we'll check that out, and when we come back, we'll chat about it.
Okay.
那么从昨天开始，我们就开始布置了。你看，每个间距要将近大概是2米，人也是比较多的，有1000多人。因为弄堂毕竟不是很大的一个空间，所以说呢，我们还是按照门牌号，会有序的叫他们下来。这里是一个返回通道，然后这边的居民往这边过去，那边的家住在后面的居民，那么就往那边走，那么这样就有序的就分开来了啊。
现在检测的量确实比较大，很多实验室都是超负荷的在运转。医院跟检测机构当然是第一时间会去处理这些标本，然后第一时间去发到你的报告。
患者来了之后，我们的医生和护士首先过去看一看这个车上来的患者是否有一些基础疾病，然后继续进一步的采集详细的病史，然后采取相应的措施。有一些基础毛病，那么在这个隔离期间呢，它就会发作，比如说血压突然增高啦，或者血糖的变化等等。我们也备好急救的药品。 备好急救的设备设施。另外一个有慢性疾病的一些，尤其是老年患者，我们也有慢性病的药，也有专业的医生给他采取持续的治疗方案。还有包括，对这些患者，尤其是心理方面的疏导非常重要。
做那个入院的一个扫码登记，一个登记信息，对的。然后就是这个样子，然后负责一下这个病人就是生命体征的一个监测。 哎，对的，所以假如生命体征有异常的话，我们会做出相应的一个处理。
因为还有另外一个舱在建设当中，我们还要筹备另外一个舱的开放。
需要时间嘛？
而且是它传染能力。
一个老年患者长期做那个肾衰做血透的，刚刚到现场的话，他是就症状比较稍微有点重，就是有点胸闷，然后水肿还是有一点的。然后血压我在车上给他测了一下是190几，然后这个都属于高危风险，就是说定期必须尽快做的。
那么我们从这一轮疫情以来呢，我们急救中心是保持24小时的这个连轴转的一个状态。我们有一个突击班，突击班呢是优先去保证我们这些急重症患者去做相关的这个转运，包括一些急救。
Alex, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, we've talked about it a lot since this whole thing started. We know that a lot of the medical and healthcare workers are working really hard. To make sure that everything that needs to get done gets done. Obviously, it was good to see there at the end. Obviously, the EMTs and the ambulance drivers going out to help another person, not just for COVID, because we know that during the era of COVID, that doesn't mean that all other sicknesses and medical problems cease. And so it's good to see that attention is being paid to people with other medical disorders, no matter what those are, because those are also extremely serious, and a lot of them are objectively more serious than COVID. And so. And require more special and immediate attention and care. And so it's good to see that they're out there making sure that those people get the treatment they need. Because like I said, it doesn't just disappear because there's COVID. So.
Exactly, there are definitely many pressing medical concerns. We brought news to you guys a few days ago that hospitals in Shanghai had started to sort out the issue of, we heard some patients heading to hospitals with serious issues were being rejected if they didn't have the right PCR or COVID test results. That issue is being sorted out slowly. Now they've introduced buffer zones in hospitals so that patients without the right results can wait in the buffer zone, get some preliminary treatment, wait for their a new test result to come out before heading in. So yeah, good news. But yeah, serious issue there. It's good to see being ironed out. I also was quite interested to see how they do the PCR test. Obviously, that's a mammoth undertaking, especially the city of 25.6 million, and they're doing multiple tests every day. Can't be easy.
Yeah, for sure. We know that they have been doing batch testing where there'll be batches of 10 or 20 that are tested at the same time. That's obviously done to save time and resources, supplies as well. And then obviously if there's a positive test within that batch, then they retest everybody. That's what it, if you get a quote unquote abnormal result, that's what that's referring to. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're positive. It means that someone in your batch is. And so there's still at least 90%, at least a 90% chance that you are negative if that happens.
90%, yeah. Still scary though. No.
Yeah, it is scary for sure, but it doesn't mean that you're automatically positive in that case. But yeah, so we also know that, you know, doing all these tests and processing the results does take time. And so I know that we have seen cases where somebody might have tested positive on one day, but the case isn't necessarily, the test may not be processed on that same day due to time constraints and you know, just the overall workload. And sometimes the cases are actually reported at a later date. And so that might actually also be influencing sort of the steady flow of positive cases in terms of the daily numbers that we're seeing. That's just speculation, but it seems like that's possible.
Yeah, it's all we can do at the moment, it feels.
Right.
I think we'll take a little break and watch a video musical performance. But before that, I will just quickly sum up some of the biggest news we've brought you today, which is that unfortunately 3 people have been reported passed away who were COVID patients in hospital here in Shanghai. The first deaths we've seen from March 1st when this resurgence hit the city. Now, those patients were all elderly, quite advanced age, all had serious pre-existing conditions, and neither of them were vaccinated. So terrible news there. We will continue to bring you this kind of news though, even though it's something a lot of people don't really need to hear about at the moment. But it's important to keep up to date with all these latest pieces of news, and you can do so by heading along to our website, Shanghai Daily's website, which is shine.cn. We'll be back very shortly with some more news, but until then, Alex, let's enjoy a performance from our online concert, and I'll see you very shortly.
Okay.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. That was a young performer on our online concert from a couple of weeks ago. Alex, I think that was the daughter of one of our colleagues.
Yes, playing the guzheng, which is the Chinese name of that instrument that she was playing. It's a very long string instrument that you sit flat on a table or other sort of surface like that. And yeah, it's got a nice sound and a nice flavor. Definitely a great traditional classic Chinese instrument.
Yeah, awesome to see kids are still learning these traditional instruments. It's really quite unique. Well, maybe not unique here, but for foreigners, it's not an instrument that we see that often. So awesome to see. Again, that was from our online concert about 2 weeks ago. We will continue to bring you, we had about 18 performers. We'll continue to bring you one a day as long as they keep lasting. So yeah, I do have another video to share though, which is in regards to some more high-tech kind of stuff, drone technology delivering. I know we played a video the other day, but we have a new one about deliveries being made during the lockdown with drones. So we'll quickly check that out and then come back.
我觉得呢，这个方法还是比较好，因为这样呢，就是可以大大的缩减我们的人力成本和时间成本。那么接下来呢，我们想充分的利用好这个无人机，为我们一些相对配药量比较少的和距离比较远的社区呢，我们来利用无人机进行配送。
无人机实行的是一个无接触配送，可以大大降低这种配送过程中的一个感染风险，然后提升这个物资的一个配送时效。等我们安停这个点位布置完成之后，我们将奔赴下一个点位去继续进行这个现场的一些无人机的一些航线的前期准备工作。
Well, important point there, obviously, that we talked about the other day as well, is that obviously, sorry, I'm trying to get the video off. The drone delivery is no contact, which is really important in this time with lockdown, Alex.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, we know that medicine, obviously, that was the primary purpose that they were using.
Are you there, Alex? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can hear me? You there? I'm not on mute.
I can hear you. Go. Yeah.
I was just okay. I was just saying that that obviously medicine is one of the most important goods. Obviously, people who need medicine and medical treatment need those products delivered to them as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And yeah, so it looks like these drones are being repurposed from whatever their original purpose is to get this done. As I was mentioning on the stream yesterday, Shanghai is really a city on the whole world stage, not just here in China, but is on the cutting edge of these sort of technologies. Some of the biggest drone manufacturers are located here in China. And so it's good to see that we're using this advanced technology that we have in order to help fight the big problem the city's facing. This is obviously a time when the city needs to use all its resources and pull all that together to help get through this. And it's good to see that they're using this sort of technology to achieve that goal.
Yeah, it is really good. This is 2022, so we have a lot of this kind of technology at our disposal. Someone commented yesterday that they should use the robot dog to deliver, make some deliveries, but I don't think that would work, mainly because they're pretty cute. I think people may try to just grab them and keep, if one came to your door, they might make try to invite it inside and keep it as a pet or something. So it probably wouldn't work out. We have a comment here from.
Here for
you
the verticality of our city. Go ahead.
I was just saying we have a comment here from Stephen Riley after that musical performance. Sorry, you guys, the internet is a bit laggy, so things are getting cut off. Stephen asked, have you heard whether the violinist who played in the concert passed her exam? I hope so. She was good. Actually, no, we should follow up on that. We did have a story about that violinist who was in central quarantine, brought her violin with her, and did a entrance exam to a really prestigious music school here in Shanghai while she was in central quarantine, which was really touching. We had a story on shine.cn. We should catch up with her again shortly. I'll talk to the reporter and find out for you, Stephen, if she got in. But like Alex said during that performance, it sounds good, but we're not musical geniuses. We can't really tell if she got in or not from the performance, but it was an interesting and nice performance anyway, Alex.
Definitely. I mean, to the layman's ear, which is mine, it sounded great. And obviously she was in a really tough situation. Sort of for those of you who may not have heard about this story or who missed her performance, she was a teenage student from Zhejiang province, I believe, which is the next province south of here, south of Shanghai, and had come up here to participate in an entrance exam for the Shanghai Conservatory of Music, I believe, is the school it was.
Yep.
But she, unfortunately, and her family they tested positive for COVID and had to go to central quarantine. They're not obviously from Shanghai, so they were here just for this purpose. But then she got stuck in central quarantine, so she had to do her exam on the violin from central quarantine, which is obviously less than ideal. But it seemed like she did a really, really good job, and she also gave us a really wonderful performance during our online concert, which was back on April 5th. So, so we don't know if she passed her exam, but we wish her the best of luck, and she sure sounded great to me.
Yeah, it sounded really good. And we do have another comment about another guest we featured, not really a guest, someone we interviewed on our stream, through our colleague Zhou Shengdia on the street, which was the delivery driver who was having trouble finding somewhere to sleep and finding enough food while delivering. So he asked, Kevin asks, hope that delivery scooter driver from the other day has now got the required support. Unfortunately, I don't think we will have contact details for him, but I know the situation has been improving a bit. So hopefully he has the support he needs. But thank you so much for commenting, Kevin. It was a really touching story. Do you remember, Alex?
Yeah, definitely. It was a delivery driver who was working really, really hard, taking all sorts of different orders for people, leaving him very little time to eat or to find himself any sort of nourishment. And also sleeping arrangements were difficult. From what I understand, he was a delivery driver who was independent and not necessarily bound or registered with one of the delivery companies. And so he was like sort of an independent contractor, if I understood the story correctly. And so, unfortunately, he has not been provided with any sort of centralized housing accommodations. And so he was really having a tough time trying to find a place to get some shut-eye at night as well. And so it was a really sort of unfortunate story. And so, yeah, as far as I'm aware, we don't have follow-up details. So we're not really sure if his situation or what his situation is looking like now. But we hope it's better than what it was a few days back when we caught up with him.
Yeah, for sure. Fingers crossed. But I do feel like the situation should have improved. So hopefully he's in a good place now. Now we do have another video, one more video before we let you go, which is also a follow-up on a previous video. We had a vlog 1 or 2 nights ago from somebody inside the central quarantine zone, showing us a bit about their daily life. And now we have an update, which is quite good news. Today was the day when them and their family were released from the quarantine site. So we have a video detailing that. And when we come back, we'll say goodbye. So yeah, let's check that out.
Let's see it.
今天是我们家抽仓的日子。前2天，我们所在的方舱已经离开了一大批病友了，舱内1半以上的铺位已经空了出来。一早，负责清洁的大白们已经开始对方舱的各个部位提前消毒了。用过早餐后，大家开始根据要求整理物品。让我们回去吧，回
到梦中的故乡，让我们回家吧，走不同的方向。
在方舱分隔床位的隔板上，有许多病友、孩子、志愿者们留下的文字手绘。上海加油，你们辛苦了。还有可爱的医护人员卡通形象。8点过后，转运车辆陆续到来，人们带着行李排成行，等待着出舱。护士们最后一遍确认姓名，叮嘱大家带好身份证件，解除隔离证明，出院小结。然后那个解除隔离的证明。10点，我们接到通知，3号车来了，开始排队。跨出方舱大门的那一刻，我们的旅途就此进入尾声。上车出发，生活了8天的临港方舱，再见了。临港方舱，来时是夜间，一切是未知；回时是白天，一切所向光明。
Well, really nice to see. Obviously, quite a sentimental moment for those guys. Are getting out after 8 days. I noticed the song here. 让我们回家吧.
Yeah, let us go home.
Let us go home. Yeah, a really nice, really touching video.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, obviously getting out of central quarantine, regardless of whether you've been there just for a couple of days or for weeks or however long, is obviously a nice situation, and you feel a lot better about what's going to happen to in the future once that happens. Yeah, it's good to see that people are getting out. I'm not sure what the total number is in terms of. I know that it was a couple days ago, it was 11,000. But I know that thousands of people are testing negative, getting their second negative test within 48 hours, and are being released from central quarantine sites. I know I mentioned that a good friend of mine from Sweden he was in there for a good 10 days, and he's been released after 2 negative tests. And so that's great. And so, yeah, people are getting released, and that's good to see. And yeah, hopefully that's obviously a necessary step in the city healing and getting over this. So, yep.
Yeah, it's really good to see. And obviously remind people that the amount of time you'll be there obviously has a lot to do with your current condition, your overall state of health. We know some people have returned to 2 negative tests really quickly, overnight or 1 or 2 days. And then this family here were there for 8 days. And like you just said, Alex, your friend was in for 10 days. I've heard some people are there for up to 14 days. So yeah, it is. You can imagine with that uncertainty, not knowing how long you're going to be there for, that regardless of how long you were there for, the moment you get to leave will be a great moment. But also I can imagine it might be a bit bittersweet, because a lot of people are inside in those extraordinary circumstances. I would imagine forging new friendships, becoming used to the situation, getting to know the volunteers, the other patients in there. So I hope that a lot of people, and I'm sure it is the case, will be forging lifelong friendships from this situation, which is sort of like something nice to come out of not a very good situation.
Yeah, true. I'm sure that would happen. I'm a pretty socially active person, and so I'm sure that I would be starved for human contact. Even if I was talking to them from 2 meters or more away, I would probably make some friends in there. But I think the idea would be to really continue to forge that friendship outside of the COVID hospitals, and rather back in the real world, not the real world, but the outside world, the way that we normally do it. But yeah, so that's sort of what I would do. I'd say, well, I'm glad to get your information. Hope to not see you again until this is over. But yeah, that's how I would.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, nice to see. Really good video there from Mr. Lan. Thank you very much. There is a question here in regards to these Fangcang Yiyuan, these quarantine sites. Travel with Jean in China asks, Andy, will you be talking about the reporter telling a person to leave quarantine without being released? I would like to hear your perspective. I don't know if you've seen that, Alex, but a reporter, I think from the US, and they run a YouTube channel, I think, was chatting live with a foreign Ukrainian girl who was in the quarantine site. and he was egging her on to just walk out. He was saying, "Why don't you walk out now? We'll watch what happens." I think it's completely irresponsible. China is aiming for a COVID zero, obviously. Not only will you put that girl at risk for whatever ramifications he may face from trying to go against China's laws, but also potentially putting Shanghai at risk and letting cases out. So I think my opinion on that, although I haven't looked too deep into it, is pretty terrible behavior. Alex, I don't know if you've heard about it.
I have not actually. This is the first time hearing about it. I wasn't. I'll have to go and find it after we finish the show today. I mean, look, I understand that a lot of people are going to have differing opinions when it comes to this sort of thing. A lot of us are from different countries, and so our countries might be handling it a different way, and we might agree or disagree with certain things that are happening in one country or another. And that's totally understandable. I mean, we're all going to have our own different viewpoints and opinions about this issue. But the thing is, the fact of the matter is, I'm sure everyone understands that. Like, we are where we are. We're in China, and so China's handling it the way that they're choosing to do that. Obviously, they think that that's what's best for them. While we're here, we have to deal with that, and we have to live with that. You know, if it's something that people don't feel comfortable with, you know, you're in the wrong place. You know, it's just the way it is right now. And so, yeah, I would say advising someone to just get up and walk out when that's clearly against the rules and the policies is definitely irresponsible. You know, even if you're upset or unhappy with the situation, you can't just flout the rules and the laws, because they're really not going to be having that. They're really not going to be very lenient about things like that. Obviously, it sort of defeats the entire purpose of this whole situation. So don't do that.
Exactly. So yeah, like you said, really stupid suggestion. When you're in wherever you are, whichever country it is, you need to follow the local rules and regulations. Not just that, also the local customs, and take note of local culture and take all of that into account. So I think I did see that video. That guy, I don't know if he's really a reporter or anyway, it doesn't matter what he is. I thought totally irresponsible, and the guy's an idiot basically. But yeah, anyway, on that note, we will leave you guys for the evening, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 7:30. Here is that lovely view, which we show you every evening, but this is live thanks to Kankan Xinwen, K News. Really beautiful view of Lujiazui. We'll leave you with that for a moment. Thank you for all your comments, whether you were watching on the Shanghai Daily YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or
WeChat. It looks like we lost Andy for a second. Whether you're on Shanghai Facebook, YouTube, Twitter for Shanghai Daily, or whether you're watching on the WeChat platform for Shine, Shanghai Ribao in Chinese, SHINE, Shine. Check out shine.cn for the latest news about the COVID-19 pandemic, the situation in Shanghai, and what's going on. Like Andy said, he and I will be back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. With more news and updates, stories, and things like that. So stay tuned. You guys have a wonderful night. Stay safe. Stay positive, test negative, and we'll see you tomorrow.